And the outcome was so successful, then the university said, let's adopt the same topic program for the summer school. And we did, and the whole university was very happy. This year we have started again with them, and with the blessing of central management. So the Pro-Vice Chancellor is here this morning to grace the occasion, to encourage us, motivate us by saying a few words, and definitely how this aligns with the university's strategic plan. No doubt whatever we are doing is actually engraved in the 2016 to 2025 university strategic plan. So we have a great man among us. He's a good friend. He was my senior in secondary school, which we try to keep. When I went to Form 1, my senior was in Form 5, Kofodia Secondary Technical. So our umbilical cords have been connected for a long time. And we all know him very well. He was the Dean of Pharmacy, and he's also an ordained Reverend Minister of Christ. Is that Christ, right? Yeah. Christ Congregation Presbyterian Church on campus. And in fact, he took over from me. He took my seat as a Pro-Vice Chancellor. He's been in office for just over a year, almost a year and a half. And he's loved by the people. So without saying much, I invite my senior, my friend, and colleague.
Thank you very much, Neodai. We call him Sammy. And this morning I bring you warm greetings from the Vice Chancellor's office. Indeed, Vice Chancellor himself would have wished to be here. But there is a big meeting going on there. So he said to me that please go and greet them and welcome the people who have come from Maastricht. And thank them also sincerely for what they are doing for us. I must say that the feedback that we got from the summer school was fantastic. And that's the more reason why the Vice Chancellor wants to keep you. He would even wish that you establish an office here on campus and operate from here. So we want to thank you very much for what you are doing for us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at it carefully, 60 years after independence, you would have expected that the private sector has expanded. And this private sector that is going to absorb and employ the teeming youth that we get. Last year, for instance, we graduated nearly 15,000 students from this university. And if you look at it carefully, looking at other universities, University of Ghana, maybe more than that number, UDS, private universities, etc. So in a year, I'm confident to say that we may even get over 100,000 youth going to the public market to look for employment. Obviously, government cannot employ all of them. And therefore, you have to do something as a university to ensure that by the time they complete from here, they have in mind something that they want to do for themselves, to make a living for themselves. And as a university, we have to rise to this particular occasion by making sure that the students that we churn out have the ability and the desire and let me say, the anxiety to be able to establish work for themselves. It is upon this that the university has taken up the challenge. I believe that sometimes you do seminars for students, maybe in the final year, but one-time seminar is not going to reorient the student in such a way that they can create his own job. It has to start from the first year. And even as you stand in front of them as a lecturer and teach them, we have to put emphasis and then flag issues that can create jobs for them as they graduate from here. And I believe that once you do that, first year, second year, third year, by the time they graduate, then they have something specific that they want to do. It's for this reason that we have called deans together, and we all know the role that deans play in this university. They manage the academic system. They are involved in changing and reviewing the curriculum for the university. And I thought that they will all be here so that this becomes more or less trainer of trainers, so that they can also go and impart the knowledge that they have acquired from here to lecturers to be able to motivate the students right from the first year. And I think that if you do that, then it's going to help a lot. We as a university will do everything to support this program. If there's anything that you need to ensure that this program becomes successful, I hear you are running throughout the week. If there's anything that we can do as a university, you will readily do that. And our brother from Maastricht, you are most welcome. I hope that you don't use him too much, but you have time also to explore campus and see what we are doing on campus as well. I am informed that we have colleagues from Nigeria, one colleague from Nigeria and one colleague from Sierra Leone as well. You are most welcome. We welcome you to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. I don't know if this is your first time of coming to the university, but you will find that, is it your first time? You will find that our university is very beautiful. Find time to go around, see what you are doing in the faculties. And I believe that this is the beginning of a network, even as you go back, so that we can interact, do collaborative research, and other things that will help for our mutual benefit. Thank you very, very much. And I'll tell the Vice Chancellor that the program is on and it's going well. On that note, thank you very much, and we wish you well, even as you continue the program. Thank you very much.
I'll keep it brief. Thanks for the welcoming words from the Vice Chancellor office. So thank you for that. And I understand that he's of course busy in difficult meetings today. I'm happy to hear that the topic of this week, endeavor I call it, is so closely related to the current strategy of the university, which is indeed important. And what I hope that with the group, which may enlarge also in the later today or tomorrow, we really be in togetherness come forward with kind of concrete ideas how on faculty level also further operationalize the ambitions of the university in support of the social and economic development of your country. So it's an honor to be here, and I hope that this is just another stone in the step in the cooperation between the two institutions. Thank you for that.
On that note, we welcome you once again to the KNUST, and we do hope that your students will be good students as well, paying attention and making sure that the programs run successfully. We wish you very well, and find time to come upstairs. Okay. That's how you call the place, upstairs, and then come and greet the Vice Chancellor. I'm sure Neil will bring you along. Enjoy your stay. Enjoy your stay. Thank you very much, Deans, and enjoy the program. Unfortunately, I have to leave at this time to join the Vice Chancellor, but you pop in from time to time to see how you are doing. Thank you so much.
I'm white again? Yes, I'm white again. Okay, I don't need this. Okay, I think it's time to do some more substantive work, yeah? Where is it? Do we have a paper? It's also nice to have this. Is there also some? Can I write down on this, or do I need to write on the paper? There is paper, but it's all scribbled. That's not helpful, guys. Oh, there's one. There's one. I've got one. Let's see whether this works. Yeah, okay, it does work. It does work. Okay, here we are again. Before I'll give an answer to the question that is written there, I would like to have a brief inventory what you think is an entrepreneurial university. Then I will say something myself, also bring in some cases, and we'll talk about that, let's say, until the lunch break. Okay? So we've been talking about, let's say, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial university, but more in general terms, and also there was something from, what is actually entrepreneurial university? So if we say entrepreneurial university, how would you identify, what is your perception, what's your idea of what is an entrepreneurial university? Can I give someone the floor to say some keywords, and then I'll write it down, and from there I'll go to the framework. So, you don't know, but I think we need the mics. Sorry, I don't care about the mics, but I think the technicians want it.
I used to work in the university.
Yeah.
And the sort of things we were doing there, I had not come by the concept, but listening to colleagues here, what they shared,
yes,
I seem to think that that is an entrepreneurial university. That is GIMPA, Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration.
Yes, I know GIMPA, yeah.
I was with them for several years.
Yeah.
It's run like a business.
Okay.
So business in the sense that we had to generate funds to pay our own salary, to do everything that has to be done. And so it wasn't running like business as usual. You have to go and look for money.
Okay.
To ensure that the university functions.
Yeah.
So this is what I can say.
Okay.
It runs like a business and not as a system sitting somewhere on its own and hoping and waiting for money to be brought in.
Yeah.
So we needed to be proactive and go and bid for jobs, compete for jobs like any other person, and also got the students to have that kind of
Yeah. Okay.
Entrepreneurial university. But as to the concepts which go into it, I'm not in a
that's
position
fine.
to say.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But if I'm correct, the gist of your message is that it's an institute running like a business, so it needs to generate its own income. Yeah, that's what the gist of your what you mean.
Okay.
Someone, you're our entrepreneurship lecturer. So, what's your perception? What's your idea on entrepreneurial university? Thank you.
Okay. My perception to
Sunday, what's your name? Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
My perception to entrepreneurial university is creating a platform.
Okay.
Whereby staff of an institution,
okay,
say university,
uh-huh,
and the students of same can be innovative, can be innovative, and such innovation or innovativeness is being recognized, put into use, and generate income by the institution. So any institution that has this ability to create a platform and connections between students, staff, innovation, to translate it into income can be seen as an entrepreneurial university. Thank you.
You said a lot. So you said it's actually a university which is shaped to link, let's
Yeah,
say,
to
the
link,
students and the staff
yes, yeah,
for innovation, which also lead to income for.
Yeah, for the university, probably to fund its activities, other than relying on the government for sponsorship of its programs. That's it.
All right. And where just a minute. Where is entrepreneurship specifically comes in? Is there a kind of relation? I come with you. Ah, yeah. Okay.
Staff of institutions are innovative. The students also are innovative.
Mm.
But creating that platform
Mhm.
that will enhance them to bring out that innovativeness into reality
Mhm.
is what we're looking at here. That is ideas, translating it into reality. And when it comes into full force, such can be used to generate income for the university, as the case may be.
Okay. Thanks. Please.
Yeah, I'm also looking at entrepreneurial university beyond just generating income,
Okay.
but making the university profitable.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can make the university profitable by developing more attractive, unique programs that will meet the needs of the job market, so that at the end the product will be more employable within the job market.
What is the product? Sorry.
I mean, the students, people we are training and developing them. Yeah.
I think you said the product is marketable, yeah? I think that were your words, yeah? But you're referring to graduates who actually are linked to, let's say, the needs in the economy to actually get employment, yeah? I think that's what you said. And on institutional level, you said that the whole university to organize such a way that it's profitable what you're doing. Is that correctly so? At the back. I go to you, Edwin, later, so. No, first there, at the back, sorry.
I think the other way is to produce students that will see themselves as being independent from employment, that they themselves can start something. So all the courses are such that the students knows that after completion, I can be on my own and start something on my own.
So is it then, let's say, to create or to develop or produce students to?
Yeah, to produce students with a mind of entrepreneurship or being on their own. Yeah. Especially in this country where everybody, upon completion, is thinking of somebody employing him, especially the government.
But your key word was independency, yeah?
Yeah.
So that they have, let's say, the ability to actually make their own choices and follow their own path. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Edwin, some names I already know, some names I don't know yet, yeah?
Yeah, it's quite similar to what he said. Like
Okay.
train students who can think independently and to solve challenges in their society, and that would be able to help transform the society in which they are.
So, issues in society?
Yes. Societal issues or challenges.
Yeah.
So once they're able to think independently, then means they can think creatively to help solve these challenges in the society. And that also help transform the country as a whole.
Okay, you may not read everything from the back, but is there something? Oh, Samuel.
Yeah, let me add something quickly. Similar
To whom?
To what has been said. I've heard a lot of good things. But similar to having, for example, a typical like a medical school,
Yeah.
medical university, or having a technological university,
Yeah.
where they focus on training people only in medicine or in technology. Now, in a way, there could be a university that maybe focuses on entrepreneurial issues. But here we are looking at whatever we are doing, the concept of entrepreneurship is there. So if whether we train you in medicine, in dentistry, in engineering, someone who is coming from an entrepreneurial university should know that one way is to write the application and send my CV to look for a job. The other way is to think the way of a startup. So then they are given the skills so that they develop the competence in or understand the processes of establishing their own businesses in whatever area, whether social science or engineering or medicine.
Thanks. Is there someone who would like to add something? If you think that should be said, is not yet written down, is not yet heard. Okay. Yeah. Last one.
To add to that, so maybe the students who come out of the university, our products, should also be business minded. That wherever they work, they should help that organization to make money, to make more profit. So wherever you find yourself, you should be thinking of how do I make this organization profitable, help in terms of quality products that come out and others, so that that company or business will also be competitive. So it means that we should be able to inculcate into the students that mindset of business. Business ideas, like the other person said, being innovative in whatever product we turn out. That is what I also think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, yes, tell me.
Yeah, I just want to add that in addition to all that has been said, my expectation is that the university itself will be efficiently managed so that we get value for money.
Yeah, good point. So it's a bit like run like a business, yeah? Efficiently managed university, so you get value for money, yeah? Okay. Good. Let's leave it with this. Thanks. Please put on your, I think you're all right. You're all right in essence. What I would like to use as within the framework of this week, maybe closely related to also what Sunday has explained. It goes beyond students, making students ready to earn their own income. It has indeed also to do with efficiently managed institutions, definitely. The whole idea of the entrepreneurial university is indeed that you look at the whole institution, so not only your education process, but indeed also how you manage your institution, how you organize your institution. And is your institution indeed designed, shaped in such a way through management, through also your research education and the facilities you have, but also your HR policy of your staff in such a way that is actually stimulating and empowering indeed your students, but also your staff to act entrepreneurially, to act in an innovative way, and to be creative. And the whole idea is, let's say, if you you can say then the university is kind of seen as a kind of system where the even incentive system to staff, if that's also stimulating entrepreneurial innovative behavior of staff, helps also to show examples of what you can do in class. The other thing which is there in also many literature and examples is the issue is that universities nowadays, or higher education more in general, is currently organized in an extremely dynamic changing society, where, let's say, in the old days, when you had your kind of course program and your faculty or college structure, you could continue doing that always and nothing really changed. But let's say entrepreneurial university is also the idea that you are able, as an institution, to also change dependent, let's say, the needs in the society that you are located in. I see all of you writing down, which is great, because I had also learned by writing down you learn better. So please do so, but of course my presentations will be shared. Yeah, of course, and because I'll give them to Samuel, and he will take care, or his staff, and he will take care of for distribution. So that's of course, but feel free to write down because I've learned that that's also a good learning strategy. But of course I'll share. And other element which you also see, which maybe relates to a platform that is also Sunday used, is that a typical element of an entrepreneurial university is that you work in partnership with all kind of actors around you. From the idea that, let's say, knowledge, it's not about we have all the knowledge and we just push it in the system, but no, you really collaborate with business, but also with government or international partners for solving society, economic and business, economic and social issues in your own society. So it's one, let's say, how do you organize to actually empower your own staff and students to act in a creative, entrepreneurial business way? How are you able to actually change when it is needed to change, and dare to take decisions that some new programs are needed and other old-fashioned programs can be shut down, which is often taboo in many universities? And how do you actually intrinsically partner on equal terms with business, with government, with all kind of also community parties to actually be relevant to the societies that you are in? So these three elements are there. And in this broad definition, the specific purpose of income generation is not in this definition, but it can be there. It can be there, of course, and also there are always many definitions. But I like this one because it's very broad and it's showing that it's much broader than offering a one-off entrepreneurship course to students. That may be in there, that should be in there, but this is broader than that. I would like to show the case of University of Twente. It's a Dutch case, but it's from my country, but that's why I have to, but it's also a pretty well-known case when talking internationally, benchmarking about entrepreneurial universities. This has already been described 20 years ago, and it's still, so it was one of the first in, let's say, literature on entrepreneurial universities, so that's why I dare to also share. It's not chauvinistic only, but it would be silly of not showing. And it's a technical university, which is interesting, because I'm also here in a technical university. University of Twente, it's an international benchmark. It's considered in my country as the most entrepreneurial university. Yeah? And we've got, it may not be the best technical university, because I think you cooperate more with Delft, which is, I think, higher ranked. Yeah? Definitely. Okay. There's always, every university has its own story. This is I'm gonna tell you the story of University of Twente. You see there the map of my tiny country. Some of you may have been in my country. Is there a pointer here? Probably there is. No, I don't know. No, anyway. Who knows this? Is there a pointer? Is it this one? Oh yeah, okay, it's as simple as that. Okay. Okay. So this is my tiny country. At this side, there's sea here, and for those who know of the United Kingdom is somewhere here. Germany is at the east side, Belgium at the south, and this is my country, and Maastricht is in the tail of the tail. So that's where I'm actually living. And perhaps I can show you later on the screen the picture indeed of my garden, which is now in snow, which is also nice, but that's more for lunch break, yeah? Okay. The economic and political center of my country is, let's say, here, where we have capital, the capital of Amsterdam, and The Hague, which is the administrative capital, and Rotterdam, which is with the big harbor, which you can say is the business center. We've got a cultural, administrative, and a business center, but all, let's say, there. And it's historically explained, but I can tell that's another lecture. Yeah? But then University of Twente was founded. Technical university. In the history of my country, it's a young university. 61 only founded, which is in my country rather young. And but it didn't do so well. And actually, it had an issue because the student numbers was tiny. You say, I learned that you have got now above 40,000 students, so this was really tiny, but it was too tiny to actually be sustainable. And it was an issue because it was considered to be far away from where young people like to go, because it was a bit of in a remote area, so why should you go to that area? Because the real life and the real business was in the other part of the country. Even if it's a tiny country, it was another region. And it had a very nice campus, very beautiful campus, but it was the whole concept of campus was rather new in my country, because traditionally we didn't really have university campuses in my country. And it was in a rural area, so when you're 18, 19, and then you're stuck in a rural campus, why should you go there? No, of course not, you don't. And It was also the time that the government started to announce that they wanted to reduce funding to higher education. So the university administration had the issue. We are located in a not favorable location. Government wants to reduce funding, and I don't have enough students. So how do I go about? So that was an imperative to change. Very clearly, it had to change. Also economically, I think the last one, the area was, it was known as an area where in the past it was industry, but industry was not competitive anymore. I think it was textile industry, for instance, was not competitive anymore, so it was high unemployment, not really industry so much. So what happened there, so what you see, the trigger there was there came in a new leadership into the institution. And actually two guys, guys became important. The one on the helmet, what you would call the Vice Chancellor, and the person responsible for the resources. So the, is it the register? Finance Director, yeah. And so let them, I think we call it the rector. For now I don't need it, so it's okay, just leave it aside. Thanks, for next time. Okay, thanks for that. So the rector actually had a vision. He said, instead of just running our programs, we are here to actually flow, to generate a continuous flow of knowledge to support the society. And that was a very novel strategy and a novel vision at that time. And he came with that vision not to the Ministry of Education, no, he went to the Ministry of Economic Affairs. And he managed to get additional funding from the Ministry of Economic Affairs on top of the normal funding from the Ministry of Education. And why he managed to do that? Because he said, because at the same time he was linking up to the local municipality, to the local regional chamber of commerce, to some industry heads, and he said, if I partner with you, you make clear what you need, and we'll make sure that we'll contribute to your needs. So, and he came to the Ministry of Economic Affairs and said, I will partner with the partners in the region to solve the economic problem of a deprived region. So I need some money from the Ministry of Economic Affairs to actually help starting up the process. Once it's starting up, we can manage. And he was really convincing. So he managed to do that. And the financial director was important because in the end it's also about money and who is accountable for and how you can allocate your money. At that time, it was still very centralized budgeting. But they moved it around completely towards a system of internal budgeting. So the deans, who are here also, and also provosts, but in my country we don't have that two-level system. Yeah, we have, let's say, the deans, and on top you've got the central management. The deans became responsible for their own programs, hence budgets. So a complete new way of internal budgeting came into play, where the leadership of the university asked the provost and deans, come up with your plan, make your budget, and we'll discuss, and when it's agreed you get the budget, but you're also accountable for it. So you have to report on your budget. So you make your plan, great. You ask for the money, great, sign here, but then after a year you also need to report. That may be now normal also practice within your institution, but at that time it was definitely not normal. And I still visit some universities in other countries where it's still very centralized, organized. So what happened there were two things glued together. One, a kind of vision of really what we do is, let's say, contribute to the society, and secondly, internally, make the management responsible for actually executing their own programs through internal costing systems also. As a result, so that's a long time ago already, but as a result they managed to change the culture quite drastically to really make the full management responsible for their own programs in a kind of in a vision where they were incited, where they were stimulated to really come with all kind of innovative plans, where they, if they generate money, they could also use it for their own departments. And that resulted now in a university with which is known that they have hundreds of spin-offs and startups, where they have, I don't know whether you also know, let's say the website booking.com, which is like TripAdvisor, this kind of web services for if you want to book a holiday or a hotel or flight. It's also one of those spin-offs, which is now a billions worth company. So they are now known as really a very vibrant, you call it, a university is being an incubator for all kind of spin-offs and startups. That doesn't mean that the university itself is now extremely rich. No, that's not how it works. Because let's say the spin-offs are owned by individuals or corporates, and they have their own budget. So it's not that money then flows back immediately to the university. But what we can learn here from this case is that the whole, that there was a kind of imperative for change. There was a need for the institution to change. It started with a vision. There was a top-down incentive, but it stimulated bottom-up creative entrepreneurial behavior. And that in combination with very clever strategic partnering with regional governments, with also regional businesses, and a notion that it was not, let's say, one department or only the office, or what you call it, vice chancellor office, which running it, but no, it was really across the board. So that's what I wanted to share you with the Twente University about entrepreneurial universities. I've got one more within your own continent, which is still far away in Uganda, which is also seen as an example of entrepreneurial university. At least, and it's interesting because here the entrepreneurial change within the universities started in the humanities. So often if you talk about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial universities, people think it always should start from technology, because there are people through technology, engineering, business starts. But that's not always the case. So that's why this was also an interesting one. Uganda, we all know, had an extremely difficult period in the previous century, with dictatorship and let's say country that was really difficult to live in. But Makerere University was there, survived, but at the end of, let's say, 2 decades of political disaster, you can say, it was in shambles. There was formerly a university, it was a state university, but come on, there was nothing really working. No labs were really working, there was no money for paying wages, proper wages to staff. So what to do? And what was very nice, so let's say the example of Makerere University was that the knowledge, of course, you can ruin a lot of things but you cannot ruin the knowledge that is in the head of the professors. So that was still there. So what they started to do is capitalizing on that knowledge. So where the regular mode were regular students who were there on the day and had to pay a little bit of fee, but that was very little, which was definitely not enough to accommodate proper wages of the staff. In humanities, where you don't need fancy labs, they started to give fee-based training, executive training, in the evenings, because they realize there's an opportunity there. There's a need for some kind of knowledge. They were not allowed to do that in the normal regular daytime because that was for the regular students, but they started to offering that in the evening, and they were allowed to by the university council. So they didn't do it like kind of side job, like outside university kind of consultancy. No, they really did it as university staff, were formally allowed by the university council to do so. And by doing so, they started to generate some income. And what you of course see you have also many stories that when that's happening, the money only goes to the pocket of the lecturer. And it doesn't help the university further. Yeah, there are of course plenty of stories about that. This is a story where it went well. So of course part of the money had to go in the pocket of the lecturer because the lecturer did some additional exercise and the wages of the staff were extremely low. But there was an agreement that part would go to central. And luckily at that time there were wise people at central level. So they were using that money to actually invest also in other parts of the university. So actually the humanities started to create income, which through Central also was invested, for instance in engineering, to develop labs. So once they had their labs, they could also offer training and perhaps even had bigger margins. So that was, and one of my colleagues is from Uganda, and she has worked on the business school at Makerere, so she really confirmed my story. She said, yes, that's really how it started. And they moved around, and of course Makerere became into really business again, also academic business, and wages could be improved. So these are two completely different stories where you see that, let's say, there was a trigger imperative to change. Indeed, money was involved. Income was involved, but it also had to do with leadership and making a change in the organization. What's also very nice, let's say, when you talk about entrepreneurial university, in particular what I like on the Makerere case, but also in Twente, is that it's related to your academic core. Some people who are critical about the whole entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial concept, they say, what has this to do with our academic knowledge? Because we're here for academic education, academic knowledge. Yes, that's true, of course. But you can use your academic knowledge wisely and cleverly for your benefit of your own department, but also for entrepreneurial behavior of your students. My career actually generated income based on the academic knowledge, because without the knowledge of your academia, if you then just do something which is outside your own knowledge in entrepreneurship, it is totally not linked and it's not sustainable. So it really needs to be also part of, let's say, the whole idea of entrepreneurial university. It needs to be related to actually your academic knowledge and your academic specialization. So also Twente University is so successful because they do have an incubating program, but they're only incubating those who have good ideas in high tech. So because they want to profile on high tech, and they have their professors in high tech. So they can organize a complete support system for helping startups in high tech. So it's very also very important. You shouldn't be entrepreneurial on everything. So you can be very entrepreneurial in veterinary medicine, for instance. But if you don't have any knowledge body on it, so don't go into it. Let's say that's also I think very important. So what are, let's say, the what you as university, as KNUST, would like to profile yourself on specialize yourself on the most? That you want to see, okay, I want to be in my, I haven't read yet your strategy 2025. I need to do it tonight. But I suppose you have in there formulated certain focal areas that you want to excel in. So it is very wise when you develop, let's say, your entrepreneurial university to actually link that to those areas. My font may be too small, sorry. So the vision behind the entrepreneurial university is really how to contribute. So actually the vision is KNUST, or the National University of Sierra Leone, of you from Nigeria. What was the name of your university? Oh yes, you had an institute, yes. But there in itself, it's already in your name, so that's easier. So actually, the vision is that you're really contributing to economic and social development in your region. And your region, you can make it as broad and wide as your ambition is. And KNUST, with your reputation, you may even go beyond your national borders. But that's of course differs per institution. But how? By contributing your knowledge in all kind of way. Knowledge can be in education, can be in research, can also be in business. Okay. Having said so, that's why I'm happy that we're talking here with deans and some others who are also involved in management of your institution. In the end, the entrepreneurial university is linked to how to achieve best the strategic objective of your university. So it's about looking at your vision and mission statement and then see where can we really bring in the notion of being a contributor to social and economic development and really being innovative and entrepreneurial institution. There are some universities, and I know it is not KNUST because you are broader, but I know some universities are purely teaching universities. I know you also do great research. So if your objective is only on education, so that's clear, then the entrepreneurial should be to strengthen that one only. Yeah? In research, then also that comes in. Then research is about what kind of partnerships do you have with perhaps research institutions in West Africa, for instance. How do you actually organize things like commercialization of your research? Do you, if that's important, do you have a well-equipped intellectual property office in the institution? Is it clear to researchers how the IP policy works in your institution? Or if they don't know, whom to call or how to go to which office? And on management information level, can your vice chancellor, when promoting your university, tell how many patents they have and how good you are doing on this kind of things? Is he fueled with the right data to actually show the case to get more money to support you? But if you are focusing on teaching only, you don't need that. You are focusing on strengthening probably entrepreneurship education, indeed from day one to beyond graduation, which is a complete different field of work. So it can be innovation in research, in knowledge exchange, teaching and learning, but also the governance and external relations. So external relations, I mentioned that because in nowadays knowledge generation, we acknowledge that a lot of knowledge is outside the university campus. Let's say the traditional university model is you had your building with intellectuals, and they were the knowledge. The whole symbolics, and that's it's still part of that, which is also nice, of course. But for sure, in my country, some corporate industry, they have much more money to do high, very innovative R&D, and many universities don't have the budget to have that labs. So what you see, you need to really have a true partnering of, let's say, with this industry to really, to let's say, open an industry lab for your students, because you say, if you open your lab also for my students and researchers, you can see how you can help building those skills and knowledge of the students, which you can use to employ if they are graduated. You actually can pick them. If you have 10 students and you see 2 are overperforming, then you are actually free of charge, you are actually training them more or less. So these kind of things. So it's their external relations and strategic partnering is becoming also vital for research, also employability, and also of course funding. That's why it's there. I haven't got a clue how I do in time, by the way. I need to. Where's my phone? Doing fine. So I think we agreed to have lunch break at 1, yeah? No, yeah. Okay. Now I'll make the link to entrepreneurship. You may say, yeah, Huub, what you're sketching is a kind of very innovative university, which is also correct. For me, and also in literature, the word entrepreneurial university is much more interesting. Because in innovation is, let's say, internationally much more connotated to really kind of product development, which of course also close to the heart of your university, with technical innovation which leads to product development. But behind that are, let's say, entrepreneurial attributes. So what I like very much of the concept of entrepreneurial university, so in fact it is lifting the entrepreneurial attributes which are meant to describe the skill sets, you can say, of an individual entrepreneur, to is it also relevant for the institution? So how actually is KNUST or your institute or your university in Sierra Leone actually stimulating to let grow the entrepreneurial attributes within the whole family of the university, which can be the students, which are the also support staff, the management, and the lecturers. You know perhaps other lists because you're a lecturer on entrepreneurship. I'm not. I'm not. And literature gives all kind of lists of entrepreneurial attributes and entrepreneurial skills. So there are also other lists. So this is not set in stone. But there are big overlaps in the list. Some make a short list, some make a bigger list. I like this list enough for explaining, let's say, the whole notion of the entrepreneurial university. So the whole challenge is indeed to think in your, when you are dean, in the education and research, and also the way you deal with your staff. Are the regulations, are the procedures you use, are the what's happening in class, is it one or the other way? For sure not blocking, but at least trying to help stimulate these kind of attributes. That can be as simple as say, yes, we want to stimulate entrepreneurial behavior of students, so you want them to go out to interview a business lady or someone in your business lady who, for instance, who is running a law firm, in your case. So your students need to go out. But if your students, if your university procedure doesn't allow to have a budget for a student to go out, then there's a blockage. You may have a nice vision, but you have a procedure which is blocking. And I think that is what the entrepreneurial university concept is about. You may have a kind of vision, but also look at, let's say, what's the procedures that you have, because being interactive, experiential in learning can be more costly or needs other procedures, which in the end lands on the desk of the dean. Because the teacher goes to the dean and say, yeah, I want them to go out, but I don't have transport. And then you say, yeah, I don't have a budget. Okay. These are normal day-to-day practices within the university. And that's where, let's say, simple things which can happen in class relate back to how you actually organize your university. You recognize this? Do you recognize this? Okay. In the end, of course, it's about, are you within your university, within your center, do you feel stimulated to take initiative? Or do you always need to wait for the leadership to allow you to take certain action? I think here, no, I don't think yet. I hardly know you. So you need to respond. But you tell me this week. I can only tell from I told some of you, these days I'm frequenting Ethiopia. Ethiopia, I've been there more than 30 times in the last 7 years, so that's quite a lot. And some Ethiopians say, you know my country better than I do myself. And indeed, I'm starting to link Ethiopians with Ethiopians. Ethiopian is a very hierarchical, patriarchal society, and there it's really an issue that lecturers don't dare to do anything if they don't get a kind of instruction from above. And in that situation, in that structure, we really need to have major change from the top to really make an entrepreneurial change in an institution. So, do you have a freedom within, of course, university regulations to actually go out and take initiative, which can be in class, but also come up with complete new programs. Do you also stimulate your students or staff to actually seek all kinds of opportunities and actually try to do that? And if it doesn't work out well, okay, lessons learned. Is it indeed possible for you also as teacher to really do something new, and then it may not go well, so you do something else, or you have to stay to the book always? These kind of things. I hope you recognize this kind of attributes. Is there someone from your, because you're teaching entrepreneurship, yeah? So is there some that you think is not on that list which should be there? Because it's sometimes also semantics, but is there someone content-wise you really think should be there?
So what we have here summarizes the basics of what
okay,
we
yeah.
So
it's okay. It's okay. Now then we stick to that one, yeah? So if you want to go to the details, we've got an entrepreneurship lecturer among us, yeah? Okay, thanks, Sunday. For me, when we are focusing, this is the focus on the students. And I think in the introduction also, we talked about the whole issue of employability of your graduates, which is indeed a major issue for many, in many African countries. Of course, the context in Ghana is different than in your neighbor country, but still, we are facing that you are living in countries with a young population. So there are many countries where, let's say, population sometimes up to 65% is younger than 25 years of age. So which is huge. So there's a big challenge, which is also a political challenge, to how to really make sure that your young population really has a future, a prosperous future. And there, many people look also at higher education institutions. But of course, you cannot solve that problem alone, yeah? But you are part of that. You're part of that. For me, when we look at the, so this is not let's say the research approach, entrepreneurial and innovative research, but really focusing on the students. For me, the metaphor is very simple. In essence, it's very simple. The metaphor is, I've got 3 children. I'm a proud father. And I assume that the majority of the people here around in the room also are parents. Yeah? Some with more children, perhaps even. Okay. My eldest is 22. He's now teaching to become a primary education teacher. My daughter is 20, and she's my creative daughter. She is in arts. Also, my wife is an artist. So, Edwin, I've got a lot to share with you, but we'll do that in the lunchtime. My youngest, he's the scientist. He's got the brains. I think he coupled the brains from the genes from his parents. And he's at the Technical University in Eindhoven, not in Delft. He didn't like Delft. He went to Eindhoven, Eindhoven is a city in the south of my country, which is a technical university. It's there because that's also the place where Philips, the multinational Philips, was founded. And also the DAF truck, you know the DAF truck, also originates from that city. So that's also an industrial, it's now the most innovative high-tech region in my country. So he's now first grade bachelor student, science and math, double bachelor he's doing. So that's my 3 children. I'm a proud father. So I want the best for my 3 children. I suppose you also would like to have the best for your children, don't you? Sure, you do. So what can I do? What can I do as being a proud father? Being a father, I should give the best example. The way I can do. Of course, I make many mistakes because there's no school for parenthood. Yeah, that people say that's the biggest failure, perhaps, in society, that there's no school for parenthood. But how you teach, but that's also, it's actually a very entrepreneurial occupation, because I need to take a lot of risks. I'm making a lot of mistakes. But I hope I learn. But let's say I try to do my best and I try to give the best example. And by doing that, I create the best environment, the best within the resources I have. So which is my house? It has a roof which is not leaking. Yeah, that's important. Because it may be raining outside, but please, I want to sleep dry, yeah? And also in my country, it's also warm. Yeah? Because now it's freezing outside, so we've got heating inside. And here, the opposite, you've got a fan, yeah? So that at least a bit nice. And that you also have the resources that you can cook. These kind of things. So that's my metaphor for the entrepreneurial university, when you look at how you stimulate also the best behavior of your students. So the students are there, the entrepreneurial students. So for actually stimulating the entrepreneurial attributes of your students, you need to live. You need to have the entrepreneurial staff and programs. I come still at some universities, not this one, where teaching is still out of the book, the same as done 20 years ago. Where there's modern industry that says, come on, I'm totally not interested in that book. So, vital for an entrepreneurial university is, let's say, the parents in the university, which are the teachers. So really, they need to be entrepreneurial in their way. The entrepreneurial teaching should be stimulated. They should be daring to actually cross the borders of the colleges and the faculties to actually have new multidisciplinary programs that really meet the needs of the society. But of course, they need to have the help of the administration of the university. I mentioned the example of budgeting. So is there room also for the teachers to actually go out and not immediately have to beg and have to fill in 20 forms and red tape to get some budget for which is for something new? So how do you organize that? And if indeed a faculty member wants to have a creative idea, in the pharmacy we're talking also about, there you're doing research and you want to work on that. Is it possible to have some compensation so you have less class, but also can work on your business? And if it generates money, what are the procedures in place to actually benefiting the university, because you're using the university name, perhaps, the university brands,
perhaps you're allowed to use some university facilities. So okay, fair enough that money goes back to the university. But also, is it also stimulating the individual itself? That is for me a very clear, so that's the roof. That's the roof. So that is for me very clearly explaining when we're talking about, let's say, stimulating entrepreneurial behavior, the metaphor of working with entrepreneurial universities. So it has to do with strategy, it has to do with the capacity of your staff, and in the end it should trickle down to also entrepreneurial behavior, actually what you're doing in class with students. And of course there's a context which is different per region or per country. It has to do with perceptions in your country on how you on hierarchy, for instance. In my country, every university, let's say in my country, as of you may even say kindergarten, young people are stimulated to do the wrong thing, to be creative, and to if they have an idea, they should say it and should follow it. In other countries, that can be extremely insulting to seniors. If I would do a workshop in my country, I would make them immediately mix of the higher leadership and young students, no problem, because university leadership would like to hear what the young students would say and would be challenged to listen to them. In other societies, it would be extremely insulting and students won't say anything. Like in Indonesia, I'm also working in Indonesia, Asian society is really strongly about also respect. It would be considered extremely respectless to your university leadership if a young student would say something before the leadership says something. These kind of things are important. So that's kind of, and that has to do also with how you, what's the room to actually start your own business, because you need to be outspoken. And so this kind of things. Legislation comes into play, economic situation comes into play. So that's what I wanted to share. I think there's a moment now. Is there someone who would like to react or have a question? Because I've been talking now quite long already. Is it something that resembles? Is it something that you think, oh, we're doing great? Or is it something that you think, oh, this is really interesting notion, we should work on that? Please take the mic. And I would like to hear your name, because I think you came in a bit later.
Yeah, from the board. Yeah, Usa Samoa.
Samuel?
No, Usa Samoa.
Okay.
From the board, I could see entrepreneurial staff and programs.
Yes.
Are the political, legislative, cultural, economic, are there programs?
No, that's the context. That's the context.
That's the context. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Then that answers my question.
Okay.
Because I was
the
thinking
technical
about
is not
technology.
There. Yeah,
I was thinking about if there were to be a program, then what about technology? Courses that or program that
I should have added the word technology in that, because that's sometimes that's of course you're completely correct. Yeah.
Small contribution.
Please do so.
Based on what you said so far, typical example, University of 20, it means that something or a condition will trigger traditional universities or public universities to enter into this arrangement.
Yeah.
So there's always a factor that will influence we moving from the traditional role. That is what we would like to, or some of us would like to appreciate.
Yeah.
For we can cite our university, we needed to be innovative. So like Makerere,
yes,
we are doing fee-paying programs and the rest to generate money.
Yes.
Because we had a situation where the state funding was reducing. So
that was which year? When? Roughly? A few years ago or longer?
More than 10 years.
Around
been
the
doing it,
decade,
yes,
around the
yes,
decade.
yes, yes.
Oh, 20
Yes.
years. Yeah.
So we needed to be innovative and
Yeah.
then entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does it say that for you the trigger for change was also the change of government policy?
Indirectly.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
No, but that's fair enough. That happens
Yes.
a lot, yeah?
Yes.
That happens a lot.
You are being maybe the system will not tell you to do it, but if you want to survive, then you have to do something about it.
Okay, but you want to survive, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's quite direct. Yeah, please, sir.
I'm P.K. Bedu.
Hi, P.K.
If I look at the examples you gave from University of 20,
yes,
and then the Makerere University,
yes,
it appears Kia University is also doing something similar. We started with for example, with the Institute of Distance Learning.
Yes.
That is an innovative way of the university making money somehow too, because that is a full cost recovery aspect of education, because the students at in that institute pay for virtually everything. And it has actually helped the university in improving infrastructure on campus, especially this very hall that we are in there. It belongs to the Institute of Distance Learning, and I stand for correction. I think the whole building was constructed from monies generated from the Institute of Distance Learning. So in that case, it appears we have also made a start, but I think we can do more.
Okay. In what respect?
And introducing other programs that can be offered, if not by the distance learning, other departments, but on weekend basis, and evening classes and all that, courses that can be offered in the evening for workers who can also come in, obtain a degree, and then the university can also make some money to improve infrastructure and supplement the monies that are paid by the government.
Okay. Samuel.
I quickly want to add to what my colleagues have said. It's true, government budgeting was going down. It's good, and it's true, Institute of Distance Learning is making sustainable gains, and we are moving forward, making money. So he's suggesting, for example, more programs. It's true. But the core issue that we need to emphasize here is that as you have more programs, what is the interest? Are they going out with certificate and then no jobs? Then very soon your programs become unattractive. So whether you build 5 of these conference rooms, no student is coming anymore. So as we think about the entrepreneurial university, one part is looking at, bringing income to the university. Now, who is bringing the income? If it's the students, what are we giving the students to continuously attract them so that it makes our cycle keep working? What it means is that, so that top one, the entrepreneurial student. So what do we do with them so they will continue coming because they have some skills, they can start their own businesses? Are we not going to be very proud if we are told that the next search engine, for example, is called Nyansapo, and then is an alumnus of this university, and it's reached $50 billion? We are going to be proud. At least we can get a couple of millions.
Yeah.
Then the next time we get somebody from here coming up with an app or even maybe a phone or something. So the issue is we want the money as a university. We are happy. But then the products that are going out should be seriously innovative and be able to engage highly in the startup world. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I'll come back. What's also, I hear you. What's also in that sense relevant, I think I mentioned in that process of creating new programs, it's also then important to dare to take decision that if you do so, some programs that may not be running should be discontinued. And that's of course always a very difficult process in every university, because it's directly related to the daily work of some teaching staff. Who, I don't know how it works here, but in many institutions still, it's the more you teach, the more money you get. That's also sometimes I don't know how that works here. That's not here. Okay, yeah. Not yet. No, I don't know what that's why. First I go to the back.
I'm William.
Hi, William. Good to see you.
Yes, good. Thank you very much.
Could you help me, because you came in a bit later? What kind of department you are working at?
Faculty of Renewable Natural Resources. Renewable Natural Resources.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. I just wanted to find out from 20 and then the Macquarie University. We know there are two types of universities in the whole world: private and then public.
Okay.
They are all owned by people, whether private or public. Public, we know, is another government that owns that.
Okay, I know.
So within the context of 20 and then Macquarie, how did they operate?
Okay.
Because it is owned by the government, and how far can they go? We are public university. We have a mandate to deliver, and you know, those kind of. So how did they really operate the 20 and then Macquarie?
Yeah. Thanks, William. That's indeed important. Public, or we can also talk about how funding of universities. Both are public. But I think that's also the interesting case of Makerere University, that they were, when they were not doing well, they were 100% state university. But of course there was no, it was a kind of fragile, what you nowadays would say a fragile or non-operating state. But it was formerly a state-owned university, so that's why they had their regular students through state procedures, Ministry of Education procedures. I don't know the current specific governance structure of the university today, but let's say what they just realized, that's okay, let's continue doing that, but in addition they topped up the revenues through private streams. So what I do know, that currently, let's say, the whole private income income is far bigger than the state-owned income. So they managed to turn it completely around. Yeah, that's the and in my country, all universities, let's say the formal universities, also Delft, where you're cooperating with much more intensively, are state-owned, are governmental institutions. But they, so let's say also Twente University, they got their money through the Ministry of Education for the operations and so on. But also there they managed to, within that construct, to generate to create new and additional programs which were completely different funded. So you can, and also it's quite interesting, by the way, I've done research on a private university. A private university does not per se have to be so, because let's say if you're a private university and do every year the same programs, and just raise, and let's say 95% of your income is through the individual student fees, it's also, you've got a private source of income, that's it. But in business you need to innovate, and if you do clever sustainable business, you diversify your funding. So these kind of things are also very relevant for private universities. So don't make a private university similar to being entrepreneurial. That does not have to be. That does not have to be. I thought I wanted to say something else. Oh yeah, I think it's about being state-owned in my governmental institution, public funded in my country. We have a kind of, it's a bit on distance. So there's a kind of, I think, a multi-year performance-based contract between the university and the ministry. So it's really a heavy negotiation, but it's not so much based on the individual outputs, but really what are your performance. There's a whole performance-based contract, I think for 5 years, and then you get certain money from the government. And so it's not so much interfering on the details of the operation. Sander, you had a question, and then I go to you, and then to you.
Mine is not a question per se.
Yes.
It's a form of contribution. Like in the Nigerian universities, almost all the universities have consultancy units.
Have what?
Consultancy units.
Oh, consultancy units. Yes,
units,
I understand.
Which the government allows to take place in these universities. Knowing that funding from the government is not enough. So universities are permitted over there to have consultancy outfits where they deliver services to private sectors, individuals, and even to the government, where the government is supposed to maybe employ expatriates from abroad to run certain research program or whatever. The institute, the institutions, they come in, offer those services under consultancy, and make money for running other programs of the institute or institutions. Now, a case study like in my place, the consultancy was not there at the time, but because of the issue of short of fund, it has to be established, and immediately it was established, even with the World Bank, at the time, there was a contract awarded under the consultancy. And as from there, we were able to generate a lot of income that has been sustaining even youth empowerment programs that have been developed to engage the youth from within the states. So what I'm saying in essence is, I don't know what it is over here. I don't know the restrictions from the government, but it is high time universities begin to look into establishing consultancy outfits, which will also help them to broaden their entrepreneurial activities to generate more income.
Okay, okay. So there's a kind of plea to start consultancy units, yeah? You have a question.
Yes, on the board there.
A little bit closer to the mic, because
okay, I have a question.
I like your voice, but it's a bit...
Yeah, hello, I have a question. Up there on the board, we have the entrepreneurial, the context. And the context, you have listed political, legislative, cultural, economic, financial, social.
And technical is also there. But
yes.
Apology.
Technical or technology.
Yeah.
I want to know exactly why the context is there. For the purposes of entrepreneurship, are they challenges or are they areas we need to work through to allow entrepreneurship to take place, or what? Can you please explain?
Oh, yeah. Now, I try, and I have tried already with a few examples. Now, let's simply per country, funding mechanisms or regulations for higher education differ. So you may have a brilliant idea as a dean, but then you come to the vice-chancellor, and the vice-chancellor says, sorry, it's not possible within the legislation. And that is maybe different in my country, and that's really specific. But the other, okay, factors, correct. The other example I would like to say is also when we're dealing with students. Students are part of a society, of a parents, where parents in some society don't like them to become entrepreneur because they want to become, they like them better to be a lawyer, like you, yeah, or a doctor. So these are things that you are also different per society. But I should use the factor is more, would be better. Okay, okay, thank you. I think there was, yes.
After getting these entrepreneurial students out,
yeah,
you were talking about the context. I mean, like, for instance, if somebody wants to start some business and you take a loan from the bank, and we're talking about, say, 30%, what do you do in your system to make the students actually realize what they want to do in terms of starting up businesses and so on?
Okay. So you're asking me how to, what is actually, how should you as
I know in some systems they can underwrite loans taken by students to start up and so on and so forth.
So you're really focusing now on the access to finance, yeah?
Absolutely, the context.
Yeah, but let's say it starts with, if you as a university like to stimulate startups, like to stimulate behavior of your students to actually start up, and you organize that, then it should start that you at least be aware that at a certain moment money is important, so they need to get access to money. So I find it not so fair if you are pushing students into a certain direction and then say, sorry, I cannot help you in the money. That I think at least you need to have an answer. You need to formulate an answer. So that's, you cannot, as an individual teacher, because you cannot be a banker to your students. Come on, that's the, that's the doesn't. So there needs. That's also why you need to, on more institutional level, need to think about. You can decide that it's not your problem and that they should find your money outside, but that's a decision. Yeah, that's also fine. So for me, also, it has to do with think what is needed and then take a decision. And you can do something in-house or you outsource it. That's also. A university is not a bank. And in my opinion, university also should not be a bank. A university is an academic institution. But you can be helpful in linking the most brilliant ideas to money. You can be helpful. It doesn't cost you anything to organize a network meeting where the student need to pitch the idea for possible investors. It doesn't cost you anything, because you have your facilities. You have your facilities, and you can organize an internal competition for the most brilliant ones, and they will have to pitch their idea, not for the vice chancellor as an academic exercise, or perhaps also, but for the chairman of your regional chamber of commerce, from a CEO of a big company, this kind of stuff, or perhaps the World Bank rep of Ghana. That you can do. That doesn't cost you so much money. Okay, some CDs to organize transport of some people and lunch, etc., but that's not a big deal. That you can do. Perhaps even if he likes it for external relations, perhaps he's willing to pay it for you. Okay, that's a simple one. But I also sometimes say, you can also back them, let's say, I've got the word, it's not a word, I forgot the word in English. So sometimes when you go to a bank, you need to have a guarantee. Collateral, that was the word I was looking for. If you're 22, 23, 24, whatever, you don't have any collateral. Yeah? You don't have. But if you as university believe in it, and that young lady won your pitching prize, you can go together to the bank and say, okay, as Knust, you can have a guarantee to the bank. You can make a kind of contract. It still doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything, but you can bring in your reputation as a kind of guarantee for the bank. And then instead of paying perhaps interest rates rocket high, it's lower. But also, entrepreneurship doesn't come free. So it wouldn't be also a good example for those entrepreneurial students to just give them everything for free. So they have to work hard to convince an investor, whether it's our relatives, whether it may be me in the Netherlands who perhaps have some savings, or a formal financial institution to actually convince and to fund, to help funding. So I'm actually really against all kind of free services of universities to entrepreneurial students, because that's not entrepreneurial. You need to work for it. And you need to show that it's worth it, and you need to pay back. Okay?
Asked. I just want to say something.
Did I answer your question, by the way? I hoped I did.
Yeah, I just want to ask something, because he asked, for example, he's going for loan and all that. What kind of university? I think you said everything, but we now starting, also looking at the environment.
Yeah.
What can we do for our students? And in the process of training them, I'm sure some of these things will come out later.
Let's come out later.
Because you mentioned they should be competitive. How do you present a business plan that will convince the bank that whether the university comes in or not, you have a plan to negotiate with the bank? So I'm sure we'll discuss some of these things maybe later on.
That's also true. That's also true. Yes.
Yes, somehow I'm getting a bit confused.
That's good.
You said the university is not a bank, but is the university a business?
That's your question.
Yes. In this entrepreneurial enterprise, we have the institution there.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes here in our environment, when certain suggestions are made as to what the university can also do, we are trying to earn money, because we're told of having fee-paying programs to earn some money. But when certain ideas are put across, you find some colleagues telling you that is not our core mandate and all that. But I must say we have very good entrepreneurs out there, out of this campus, who use our logo, who use our brand to sell what they have. So in this enterprise, what is the institution supposed to do? I have an idea, which I've been telling some colleagues. We have people on our lands, farming.
Yes.
How they got there, I do not know. But they're doing a wonderful job. They have vegetables that they grow. I'm not too certain whether, as an institution, we know exactly how they do it. Many of us are concerned when we eat them because of the application of chemicals and all that. So I have an idea. As an institution, we can earn some money. Why not bring them under an umbrella? Teach them what to do right. Find a way to have the products out there. In a way, we'll be part of it. We will not be off our core mandate. We'll be getting some money. We'll be training people to do what is right. And at the same time, we'll be eating something that we are sure of. So I was a bit confused when some people say it's off our core mandate and all that. Meanwhile, I also need to get some funds to run.
Before I show the next slide where I want to compare, let's say, more the traditional university with entrepreneurial university, which may answer. Also very important in the entrepreneurial university is that if you do something like this, if you have this kind of business venture, also if you have a kind of consultancy unit, it is important that it is intertwined or related to actually your education and research. So, in your case, if you do that, and not only money-wise, but also content-wise, make sure that, let's say, students from mechanical engineering, whatever, you have a contract with that students are there to actually have an experience and lessons learned on that place, which can be used in their curriculum. Or it's also feeding into your research agenda. Then it becomes logical. Because let's say you need to be careful in, I've also, let's say, another university who did pretty well in earning money because they were, they had sold their lands because they were first located in town. But town was booming, like many towns, many cities. And then they moved outside to another campus. No, that's okay. It's a bit like, it's even greener than here. And they sold the property, most of the property. But they still became, and they got a lot of money, and they became then co-owner of a mall. And a hotel. Yeah? So, a nice income generating stuff, and you can be proud on that. But there was totally a disconnect from actually the academic process in the institution. So actually, the leadership was happy because money was generated, but the teaching staff said, yeah, I don't see anything of the money, so it goes there to the rectorate office. I still, what has to do this kind of so-called entrepreneurial behavior with what I do with my students and with my research? So you really need to be also cleverly making choices on, if you run the business, the university's business, it should also enrich your academic process. Otherwise, you become detached is the word, detached from the core of your operations. And then people look with you and say, ah, clever business guy. He's driving a nice car. Yeah? But what's that helpful for your students? But if you have your nice car and still helping your students, I'm perfectly fine. Yeah? And that's, let's say, the idea. Apology if it's too small. Let's say it's of course not black and white nowadays anymore. It's at the left column, it's the so-called traditional university, which is organized through monodisciplinary departments and faculties, etc. And the one at the right hand is more the entrepreneurial university. And there's some kind of things that are listed here. Yeah, I don't know whether I should write, because you can read, of course, yeah? Is it big enough that you can read it also at the back? Yeah, okay. So let's say what you see in the right column, that you the aspect of change and adaptation is, I think, vital in the entrepreneurial university, so that you really sense what is needed, in this case in science and technology in your country or beyond, and based on that adapt your program and your education and your research, and also perhaps spin-offs. So I think that's their central in, let's say, the whole idea of the entrepreneurial university. So the word specific on entrepreneurship is not even there, or income generation is not there. That's part of that. Yeah? Does this help in answering your question? Okay. Another contribution? Samuel. Yeah. What do you want to say?
Happening by itself like automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And here we purposely say we want to change.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea is, of course, that you, and that's also where your whole partnering comes in, that you are much more outside oriented. So in fact that you need to have mechanisms in place that you really sense what are the opportunities, what are the needs for education, what are really the societal issues and problems that you need to solve. So that's why you see in the more entrepreneurial university, innovative universities, you are not, let's say, the problems out there, the needs from a company are not for a specific discipline. That's why you see also in organizational structure an increasing numbers of kind of multidisciplinary, and now you have the beautiful word of transdisciplinary institutes or centers, like your own center also, and yours, institute. So actually it's a kind of answering, you say, okay, this is not only a legal issue, this is not only a mechanical engineering issue, but we need to bring them together. So you're pooling, let's say, resources from the academic heartland, which may be your different departments, to work in an institution in togetherness. That's what's happening. William, it was, I think.
Oh, the thing is not coming. Yes, referring to the question that came earlier with these vegetable
yes.
farmers, and as you rightly said, because we are academic institution, if it is linked to some of the colleges or departments, let's say Faculty of Agriculture or Engineering and so forth,
yes.
where staff and students can carry out research and some training and practical training there, then it is within the business of academics.
Correctly so.
And then at the same time generating money. One cannot say that is not our core mandate. It becomes our core mandate when you're able to link it up, as you rightly said.
Yeah.
But I asked the question, the initial question, that two types of universities, and they are all owned by somebody. Is either the state or a private ownership.
Yeah, I answered it.
You
state,
answered
yeah?
it rightly, but you've just given an example where they sold the property, a land, and then went for another one in order to make money. In a state university, you cannot, for instance, our university here, sell any part of our land. You cannot. It is owned by the state. So that was why I asked that question, that within which context that 20 and so forth is.
Yeah, but then you see in that country, that's another country, other context, there was a very complex legislation, and it did so. It was and still is a public university. That example of that sold the land. But it could do so when the legislation changed and gave them more room for, within the construct of being a state or university, gave them more freedom for how they actually manage the resources. So, but there was a big of negotiation on highest level, of course you can imagine. But yeah, so it's per country completely different. And per institution. Now I think I would like to round up. Yeah, that one I just want to see. I think this is the last one I wanted to show. perhaps okay, if we talked about all this, and but if you really want, let's say a lot of universities they want to transform, becoming more entrepreneurial. As I already explained, and I think I mentioned this here also, what is therefore important, what you really need as university, you need to have a room for actually decide on yourself within a kind of framework of regulations. You need to have the so-called discretion. So what's the level of autonomy to actually make your own plans? The more restrictive you are because of national legislations, the less you can do. It sounds very logical, but it's extremely important. So if, let's say, we are here at the institution where at the end you may have brilliant ideas as university leadership, but cannot do because of your national qualification board or whatever, there's an issue. There's an issue. So that is for private universities or public universities, or they are always bound to certain rules and regulations. And that's, I don't know the specifics of KNUST, I will learn over lunchtime. It really differs per country. And in my country, it's now rather, it's really feasible because we have a long-term, let's say 5-year contract on performance where you, as a university, can do quite a bit. But that is also relevant for the individual level. You, as individual teacher or manager, what's the, how I call it, a room of maneuver that you have within the system to actually dare to do something differently and new. Yeah, and that is, let's say, underlying. If you really want to become entrepreneurial, you really need to have the space, literally also, to really start doing so. Strategic intent, I also mentioned that, but that's perhaps also chicken and egg, but anyway. So it's about making a strategic decision. It's not, of course, it can start with an individual, very innovative teacher or manager to do something, because you need to have certain champions within the institution. But at the end, we are talking this week about the entrepreneurial transformation of the university, so it is about strategic decisions where you want to go to. And if that's not clear, if no choices are made, you cannot expect an individual teacher to actually know what he or she should do. And also, you need it in your external relations and your promotion. You need to be very clear what's the situation, the direction you're heading at, because then you can brand it and you can attract the right students and the right partners. For leadership, many of you here are in a leadership position. About entrepreneurial universities, it really needs some leadership from above, because it needs you to really take strategic decisions and be an example. But within that, you need to stimulate the entrepreneurial behavior from bottom up, from your students and your faculty. So it's not being entrepreneurial on command. That doesn't work. That does not work. Because entrepreneurial you can only be from inside. You see an opportunity, but you can show that you stimulate this behavior and then are open for new ideas. So it's a combination of top-down and enabling bottom-up behavior strongly. The other elements, don't do it alone. It's in active partnership with society, which can be community, because there's also an obligation, I think, of the university to serve the community of Ghana, which may not be high-tech, or it can be high-tech. There may be not so much money in there, but there's also an obligation to work in there. But also society, which is corporate industry, which is government, which is our partners abroad. And the last one, but I think that's also, you mentioned 20 years ago, it was actually a change in funding, which made, let's say, the university had to think how to organize things differently. So these things, when you look at all kinds of cases, globally or in your own country or in Africa, you will see these kind of things popping up, one more stronger than the other. So what I hope that, let's say, within this week we elaborate on those kind of elements with you, and we deepen them and see what we can do. Before we have the break, because I think it's now around 1, yeah? I just put this one. Let's say the overall idea of the week, but I will go more in detail with Samuel to also see how we can accommodate it with your busy schedule, because I need to be flexible, but I also need you to be here, yeah? Because I can do talking, but if you would like to have the distance learning, that also would have been possible, but I'm here now, so, but I would like you to have the room, but I also understand that you need to do some work. But I'll discuss with Samuel how we best accommodate it, yeah? But in principle, the idea is that we make a journey together. We make a journey together from the principal idea of the entrepreneurial university and link it to your daily practice. Your daily practice as being a dean or teacher, dean and teacher, and lecturer in your institutions. Where we started this morning with introducing ourselves, picturing the whole landscape. This afternoon I would like to go together with you on actually why do you actually need to change? What's actually the reason for your university to change? And I can also bring it in a more global perspective, yeah? So we would like to have the imperative for change. So if you don't know why you're changing, why should you change? Okay, so let's say the whole and that will bring us to the end of today, where originally we agreed, let's say we have the break from 1 till 2, and then we continue till 4. Is that still okay for today? So proposal is we break from 1 to 2, and then we work from 2 to 4. Okay. It's a bit too late. Okay. 3:30 would be fine as well. But we need some time, yeah? We need some time. Okay. Then let's do, before I further go into this detail, I think it's time to have lunch. But the idea is that we go in the week over a journey together from the overall concepts to more concrete planning. And the more time you can label for working here with us, the more concrete your planning will be. Yes.
With your plan, are we looking at having some group works?
Yes. Yeah.
Would that be affected if we close at 3:30?
Today it's only plenary. Today it's only plenary, yeah? And then before we leave, I would like to have a firm agreement on what time we start tomorrow morning. Yeah? So that's also polite to everyone, so that we are more or less the same time in this room. Yeah? Okay. Have a good lunch, and I'll see you there.